Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and start with roll.
Adelano,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Hoff,
Yes.
Kopatz,
Yes.
Plass,
Yes.
Waters.
Yes,
You have a quorum, Chairman.
thank you. First item will be the motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Stand by. You have to identify yourself because I couldn't catch voices on who did what. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Erickson moved and who seconded?
Last.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay, next item would be the motion for the approval of the minutes from January 13th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 13th.
That's top.
2025. Second.
Kopaz will second.
Kopaz the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, we'll move on to new business. The first item will be a public hearing for 1601 West Main Street for special use for indoor self-storage facility. Variation for a floor area ratio, a FAR, from 0.23 to 0.28. Variation for height of structure from 1 story, 20 foot to 3 story, 35 foot. And variation for number of structures on lot from 1 to 7. I want to welcome everybody here today. My name is Eric Waters, the chairman of our P&Z board here. What we're going to do is go ahead and give the our attorney here a second in a minute just to go ahead and read the published notice. What we'll do when we get to the point for public comments, we'll limit it to 5 minutes. We'll start with people in house here. Then if there's anybody online, we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Sir, if you could go ahead and comment.
Mr. Chairman, there was a notice of this public hearing. It was published in the Daily Herald newspaper on January 26, 2025, and announced a public hearing at this time and date for a 4-part application. So there's an application for a special use for an indoor self-storage facility under section 8-5-13 of the Village Code, and also for 3 variances that would be applicable to that property if approved. First is a variance of the maximum floor area ratio under section 8-5-3D1. A variation of the maximum building height up to 3 stories in height, 35 feet. Under, again, section 8-5-3D1. And then a variance of the number of buildings allowed per lot, up to 7 buildings on this lot. This property is at 1601 West Main Street in the village. The legal description is set out in the notice. So all interested parties are invited to attend tonight and make comment as they wish.
All right, thank you. Next will be the presentation by the proponent, Timothy James.
Where would you like me to stand?
Nobody likes to right in front, it's fine,
Okay.
right there.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to be able to see the screen, so.
Sure.
Okay.
Wherever it works best for you.
Okay, okay. I'm Timothy James. This is my wife, Kristen. And we are here tonight to present a proposed use for this property. Let me get the first slide out
Just
here.
gotta start the PowerPoint.
I'm gonna give you one quick second.
Turn it on.
Yeah. All right, okay. So, I'll go through we're gonna have a little table of contents here to give you a little overview on what we're gonna present. If I can get this to switch, maybe you
We're
have to be
switching
closer.
before. Won't switch.
It won't switch?
Mm-mm. With the screen up at the top?
No, it shouldn't be. That's just for Zoom.
John, do they need to point it at you instead of over here?
You probably need to get a little closer because it's right here.
Did you start the presentation?
Yeah, we're in presentation mode. Man,
Technical glitch right out there.
and I can,
Start slideshow. I'm beginning. Okay.
There we go. Okay, all right. We'll look from here. All right. So, I'm gonna go through a little introduction. Then we'll go through, the, subject property, permitted uses for the property. We'll look at a site plan, for what we want to do with the property. A little bit about the community and the demographics, what drives self-storage and why we think this is a good fit for this property. And some of the reasons why we believe that this property should be approved, or this use should be approved on this property. And I'll get a little bit more then into the site plan and the landscape plan that we have for it. And then we'll go through the variances that we're asking for and then sum it up, okay? So let's get started. My wife and I are in the self-storage business currently. We're a husband and wife team. We're not a big corporation here. We're just a small business. We have our first facility that we built in Wakanda, which offers traditional drive-up storage. And for those of you who don't know what these terms mean as opposed to climate controlled and non-climate controlled, give me a second, I'll explain that. So the little picture on the side there is a typical drive-up unit. This is what everybody wants now in self-storage. You know that across the street from the proposed use of the site here that we're interested in, there's a U-Haul there. You've probably seen it there. That's climate controlled, and that's what they call hallway storage, where people have to come there, unload their car onto a cart, push the cart through the door, go into the facility. That particular one there, if you're on the second floor, you have to carry everything up the stairs to get to it. They don't have an elevator. Or if you're fortunate enough to be on the first floor, you push your cart down the hallway and get to your unit. Obviously, that's not the preferred way to store anymore. People don't want that. They want drive-up storage. And that's why 6 of the buildings will be drive-up that we're proposing. One being that climate-controlled type building that we just described, but we would like to have an elevator in ours.
Don't forget the bottom, the different. that we're-
Okay, so yeah, and another thing, we're very involved with the community, right down here on the bottom. Here,
It
it's
doesn't
just,
show up on that screen.
yeah, okay. So on the bottom there, it lists a few things that we get involved with the community. We're very community minded. We're in the Barrington Chamber of Commerce, we're in the Wakanda Chamber of Commerce, we're in the Illinois Self-Storage Association and the National Self-Storage Association. So we believe in doing, being involved with the community. Little bit about us, just briefly. I was born in Chicago, raised in Des Plaines. I've been a landscaper and nurseryman basically most of my adult life. I've had 2 retail garden centers and a growing operation. My wife, Kristen, she's originally from Colorado. She's a licensed realtor with RE/MAX, and she's worked in the self-storage industry prior to us getting involved with it ourselves. She's the one, as we like to say, I'll build it, you fill it. So she's the one that does all the paperwork, all the correspondence with tenants and such. I don't get as involved in that as she does. So, like I mentioned, for most of my adult life, I've been in the garden center and nursery business. So this is a picture of our garden center that we had in Lake Zurich. That was kind of our crown jewel there. We had another facility in Crystal Lake as well. But in 2018, we decided to exit the nursery and garden center business. It was this property here happened to be sold to Northwest Community Hospital, where it was replaced with a new immediate care facility. We were a big grower of what we sold to. We weren't just retailers, we grew all this stuff. That picture up on the top left there that's just one shot here in our nursery, which was in Sharon, Wisconsin, where we grew most of the material and then had it shipped down to the two retail locations. The other retail location there being Flowerwood Garden Center in Crystal Lake. Okay, so the subject property that we're here wishing to purchase is the red circle there. The red outline there, you can kind of see that red dotted outline. That's Sleepy Hollow. That's your city here, or your village, I'm sorry. And the subject property that we're interested in doing this self-storage facility is located right there at the very northern edge of Sleepy Hollow on Route 72. Here's a view of the property. That's a pretty current view. That's looking south. It's on the south side of 72. The pin mark there is the property. And here it is looking to the north. You have your other retail areas on the left there in Sleepy Hollow. And then across the street is West Dundee. So why do we think this fits? Here's one of the criteria here in the B2 Village District. Says low to moderate intensity commercial and office use. We believe that this is a low use, and I'll get into that a little bit further here in the presentation. But I think that this use meets that criteria. As I'm sure you probably all know, I'm not telling you something you don't already know here. Office and retail is declining. You see what happened to the mall across the street there.
Coles,
What's that?
the Coles.
Yeah,
Coles.
you're right. What was that big shot? What's the one across the street? Spring Hill Mall. Yeah, Spring Hill Mall. We see what's happening with Spring Hill Mall. You know, it's Amazon now. You know, we do it too. We understand it's really easy to get Amazon delivered, and you know, retail's declining now. So I just don't see retail coming into this site, nor office. Same thing. I mean, they're giving away office space right now. So, but some of the uses that are permitted at this site would be a shopping center, a health club, a restaurant, and offices. And again, I just mentioned why I don't think either one of those uses would be appropriate anymore for this site. Here's current commercial uses as our neighbor then to the east. You've got a restaurant there, a liquor store, a future banquet facility coming, I understand, Dunkin' Donuts and Advanced Auto Parts there. So some other uses that could come into this property that are permitted with a special use permit would be cannabis dispensary, a radio tower. I'm not sure what an amateur radio tower is, but also kennels, drive-in, fast food, motor sales, car sales, self-storage, and a cell tower. I bring this up and mention it because these are approved uses for this property. And we believe that our use would be better than some of these other uses for the property. So the trend now for self-storage is to blend in with the community. People want to go where they shop, where they bank, and et cetera. They kind of want to see where they're storing their stuff. They don't want it to be out in the back 40 anymore, which was kind of where self-storage used to be put. people don't want that anymore. They want it where it's convenient for them. As I just said, I'm not gonna read all the slides here, but there are good reasons why this site fits for self-storage now. Access is one of the key things that people want. They want good, easy access to the property. They want good visibility so that, they can see where their stuff is. And traffic counts. We need traffic counts because it's people like self-storage. They want to see it. They want to, understand where their goods are being stored.
Most people rent from the self-storage that they saw driving back and forth.
Yeah. Right. So, right, we don't want to be hidden, because again, right, like Kristen just said, people rent from a location what they saw driving by. We would be one of the only independently owned self-storage facilities in the area. If you approve this, the other competitors are all REITs. REITs being a real estate investment trust, where they're publicly traded. Again, and if we get this improved, we would have the following: we'd have the drive up, we'd have climate controlled in one single building. We'd like to have an elevator in that building so that anybody can access it. And then some larger spaces for people that need to store something big, and including indoor boat or RV storage. So I mentioned this already, but I mentioned it again because it's worth mentioning again. It's outdated to think that self-storage should be tucked away in the back. That's not what people want. They want it up front, they want it convenient, and they want convenient accessibility to their stored items. And I got some of the footnotes in here too, so that you can fact check me. Here's what self-storage does also for the community. Activating empty spaces, meets residents' needs for storing household or other materials, helps to build community development, and it generates property taxes. And people, they really don't think about self-storage until they really need it. And there's a lot of reasons why all of a sudden you need self-storage. I'll get into that in the next slide. It also covers multiple generations, as you can see from this slide here. It's not just for boomers or Gen Zs. It really covers all the generations. You can see that everybody uses it. So what's driving some of this need for all this storage space? Because we're not the only ones building self-storage. The escalating housing costs, increased mobility and lifestyle changes, working remotely. That was a big one. Self-storage went crazy when COVID hit and people stayed home. You couldn't rent a self-storage facility because everybody took all their stuff, moved it out of one of their bedrooms or whatever, and converted it to a office. And then business too. Same thing. Without the offices anymore, they need space to store a lot of the stuff that used to be in office buildings. I lost my.
Yeah, something happened with the screen.
That's me, sorry. Right now.
Yep, okay. So yeah, like I said, a lot of people don't even think of using self-storage until something happens. And these are some of the reasons, okay? A new baby, death, when here's the quotation from a tenant, marriage, divorce, the pandemic I mentioned. A lot of reasons why people use self-storage. This was Kristen's slide.
Yeah, just one of the drivers that drives self-storage is the housing crisis, like we said, in King County. Like everybody else, I'm a realtor for Lake and McHenry counties, and we have And people turn to self-storage because they can't afford a 3-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom apartment, so they put their stuff in storage. Next slide. This is navigating the housing crisis, why self-storage is essential for homeowners and renters. And this is a lot of the reason why now people are looking for self-storage, just to help find a space to put their stuff that's off-site because they can't fit it where they live.
Okay. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty a little bit here now. Here's the reasons why we feel this is a good fit for this property. Okay, first of all, quiet. Self-storage is one of your best neighbors, okay? They really are, okay? Low traffic, most tenants visit their space once a month or once even every other month. And if you do the math there, you know, say they even, you know, if they just spent a half hour putting stuff in, taking stuff out, whatever they're doing, you can do the math there. I mean, they're on the facility for maybe 6 hours a year. If you say they visit every month and they're there for a half hour, it's that amounts to 6 hours for a whole year. Things like loitering, auto repair, or conducting any business strictly prohibited. We have that's in our lease. You can't do that. So, you know, those things are out. We've very conscientiously situated the buildings, and you'll see this on the site plan when I get to it. The placement of the buildings have been placed there with a lot of forethought. We went through 8 different site plans to get to the one we have right now. So that landscaping and placement of the buildings will help block noise and the view into the facility. That's Kristen's quotation. The next best neighbor would be a cemetery, as far as quiet goes. Security. Currently at the facility we have in Wakanda right now, we have 32 cameras. They go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We monitor everything. Okay, we monitor in and out as well. So this will be very secure. Same thing here. You have to be a paying tenant to get in, and we have access for the gate, which is a keypad on the outside and a keypad on the inside. So you're not, even if you tailgated in behind somebody, you're not getting out because you don't have the code to get out. Okay. No cash, everything's done, you know, it's all credit cards or a check if some people still like to use a check. So the security is not only for our site, because we're storing, you know, we have some motorhomes, Class A motorhomes that are $500,000 at our Wakanda site. Okay, so it's not only for what's inside, but it's for what's outside too, so that we can see around. Okay, the cameras also are mounted on the property lines. Okay, self-storage it's a need for the community. We went through this already. You know, life happens. Things happen where people need self-storage. I know you've got HOA restrictions around here too for anybody that has a boat or an RV, and you don't want it in the driveway. It's ugly. So there's a lot of reasons why people use it, and I think that we would be bringing a good use to the community, a needed use. Low impact on community services. Okay. We don't need much water. We don't need much sewer. We're going to have 2 bathrooms, a men and a women's bathroom in the climate controlled building. Okay. And everything, the electricity is all LED lights. So again, it's all low impact. And as I mentioned, how often people visit their self-storage facility. They don't visit that often. So low traffic impact there on Route 72. We're not going to be tying up traffic there. Of course, I'm sure we'll probably have to have a traffic study done as well, but it's not going to generate a lot of traffic and little to no garbage as well. We will not have a dumpster there for people to dump in. They need to take their garbage with them. Landscaping and curb appeal. As you'll see here, as I get into the presentation about the landscaping, required landscape surface ratio. Sleepy Hollow requires that to be 0.30. We have proposed a a landscape surface ratio of 0.356 without the retention pond. If you add the retention pond in, we're up to 0.42, way over as to what's required here. And as I explained in our intro, at being a former nurseryman for over 40 years, it's been my life's passion to create beautiful landscapes. And we would carry that through, of course, to this site as well. Lastly, on reasons to approve this, I think it's the highest and best use. I showed you that slide that gave examples of other uses that could come into this property. I mean, I don't think the neighbors want a dog kennel barking with a bunch of barking dogs.
Speaker of a drive up.
Yeah, right, a drive up fast food facility with the speaker at the drive-through, can I take your order? I don't think we want to hear that, and for the neighbors either. I think it's a good fit for this area. This site, as you know, has been difficult to develop. I know there's been some, there's been some bad blood there too. But we ask you to, give us a fair shake here, and look at why we think it's a good fit for this. And then we understand too, nobody wants commercial butting up to a residential neighborhood. We understand that. But with our landscape plan, we'd like to, address that and try to minimize any impact that we would have on the residences. Okay, so here's the site plan, all right? Let me get this one out here too. So this one's a little bit easier to see that as well. If I may, I'm going to put that right here. I don't want to block your view, right? So
We'll have it on the screen too.
yeah, this one just happens to have the landscaping on it as well. Right? Well, let me come over here.
Wait.
I'm going to sit just for a second. So there's two buildings here that are going to face the neighborhood. Okay, this building right here. Can you see if the pointer will work?
It works, but it won't work on the screen.
It won't work
See, it
on the
disappears
screen.
on the screen. I don't know.
All right. Well, the
Can you
building
put it
number,
over there so we can see it?
yeah,
You want me to put your phone on the screen?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's even better idea. Okay. All right, so the building to the south, point to the one to the south. Yep, that one right there, yeah. That building there is the building that would be facing the neighbors to the south, of course,
Here's the
where it's at residences there, okay? The back side of that building has no doors on it. Remember the slide I showed you with our typical drive-up facility? It has the, the doors there. There will be no doors there, okay? Instead, this is going to be intensely landscaped along this south property line here.
Do you want me to jump forward to the landscape plan? Because it's got the same buildings on there and they might be able to see.
Well,
better.
no, let me just finish with the doors, okay? So the doors are all going to face to the interior, okay? Also, the building on the west side, point to that one on the west side where it says no doors. Yeah, that one right there.
No doors.
No doors facing that way, okay? Doors again are going to be interior. They're going to be on the other side of the building.
Doors would be here, doors would be here and here, but not on the outsides.
Right. Right, okay. Those are the 6 drive-up units,
Yeah, so these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to drive up units right here.
right? Okay, the building to the right there, or going east, the largest building, that's the climate controlled building. Okay, and again, no doors on the south side of that building. Okay, there would be, okay, wait, I'm gonna correct myself and say, there will be a door that the fire department will require for emergency exit. But that's a man door, not an overhead door, be a man door. Okay, and then going further east is the pond. Yes, so the retention pond, as you know, I'm sure you're all aware, Kane County requires us to capture all the water that hits the site. We have to retain it for and store it. And then it's released usually, I'm not sure if Kane County is 4-inch or 6-inch. But yeah, but anyway, it's a slow, controlled release of all the stormwater. So that's obviously the blue here. That's here. And Kane County, in case you're not aware of, because we weren't either, goes above and beyond what most other counties require for stormwater. This is a big pond. This is a huge pond for the site. You can see it takes up about 1/3 of the property. So we lost a lot of land there for that stormwater.
Which is why we're asking for some of the variances that we are. Because we're losing land to the pond. We need to go up.
We're trying to gain rentable square feet. That's the big buzzword in self-storage. How many rentable square feet do you have? Well, I got 50,000. Well, I got 75, That's what makes you profitable or not. Okay. And as some of you are aware, there was a developer that still owns the property who was here before you guys and got approved for his facility. But then when he went back and sat down at his desk and put a pencil to it, he figured out that it can't be profitable. So that's why he's willing to sell it. We're hoping to make it profitable by requesting some of these variances like Kristen pointed out. So it's all about that. That's what the variances are for. It's just to be profitable. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the buildings that we're proposing for drive up, this is again another example of the drive up, will have a pitch to the roof. It's 1/4 inch per 12. So if any of you are familiar with, typical construction, especially like on a roof, most roofs are 612, even 812 for a really steep roof. Okay, we're proposing to use buildings like this that are 1/4 inch per 12, meaning 12 inches. It's basically a flat roof. You don't see a roof. We picked this purposely because number one, it's a little cheaper to build, but also you're not, again, it's taking the neighbors into consideration. So they're not looking at a big, tall roof line.
Keyword, invisible.
Yeah, it makes them invisible. Okay. Go ahead. This is our facility here in Wakanda. There's an example of that's one of our biggest buildings there. That's a building for RVs. That particular building is 14 feet tall. And there's an example of the fence we use, a little bit of the landscaping. Go ahead. There's your typical 10 by 20 unit. Okay, that would be this building here. This building here to the south. This one here is a 20 foot building, 20 foot wide. That's a 20 foot wide unit, and that's what you would see on the interior. You will not see that on the exterior. Security, again, can't get in, can't get out through the gate unless you got a gate code. And everything is fenced and gated. Okay, so here we are to that landscape plan I was telling you about. Pictures on the right are examples of some of the trees and shrubs that we would like to use to help screen this. The landscaping along Route 72, I haven't even addressed yet. Right here. I haven't done anything there. So this is just the landscaping that I'm proposing on the south side and the west side to help
The
screen.
required landscaping.
Yeah, this is, and I've already gone over the requirement. Okay, with what I put in there, and we haven't even started on Route 72 yet. We believe we really believe a lot in curb appeal. I mean, when people drive by, I want this place to look, beautiful. So we haven't
People
even
say
started.
that at our facility. They come in and they go, wow, what a beautiful facility. How often do you hear that about self-storage?
Yeah, and then they ask us, is this a franchise? We're like, nope, it's just the two of us. So that's an example. Again, I kind of went through, I'm not gonna go over it, shrub by shrub or tree by tree, but you can see we start out all the way from one end to the other and along the west property line as well. But we will add more here along Route 72 as well. This is a rendering of the three-story building. This is the climate controlled building. That's only this building, just this one here. We're just asking for one of those. We like the look of this. We want no doors in the front of this building facing Route 72. We want it to look, modern and
Like an office or
Yeah,
medical building.
right. That's kind of what we tried to imitate here, is kind of an office or medical look to it. There would be some doors on the sides, but not, as you can see in those pictures there, but not in the front facing 72 and not in the back. That's, okay, point out the south elevation. Yeah, that's the one facing the neighborhood here. That's the back of that building. And again, this is without any landscaping in front of it. This depicts the signage.
It's a monument sign.
Right, and that's stone veneer underneath it.
It would go right in the front of the site plan.
Right by the entrance there, the proposed entrance. And I wanted to mention too about the proposed entrance here. Here it is here. This IDOT won't work with us until you own the property. So we don't own the property yet. If you approve this, we will close on it, we will own it, and then we can work with IDOT. But according to our engineer says he believes this is where IDOT will require the entrance. You're supposed to be off of the intersection, and there's a stoplight right here. And you have to be so many feet off of that intersection in order to have an entrance. It'll be a right turn in and a right turn out, because we're limited with this media that's here. Not the best. Honestly, I'd rather, I was hopeful that we could get a left-hand turn lane into here, but according to my engineer, he says IDOT's not gonna let you do that. So that's why it's a right in and a right out. And again, it goes back to the difficulty of this site. This site sat for a long time before it was eventually sold because of some of these problems, but it has. It's not the easiest site to develop. Okay, office hours would be 9 to 6. People can rent online also. We offer that convenience for them. And we'd have somebody staffed in the office. Our plans are is Monday through Saturday. Okay, access hours we're asking for are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's the same access hours that we have currently in Wakanda. In Wakanda, we do have a option for 24 hours access, but we are not asking for that here. Wakanda does allow us that, but we prefer not to have that. And I don't want to even ask you for
But we
that.
park vehicles outside. We wouldn't do that here. And a lot of our tenants are delivery drivers and they need their truck at 4 a.m. So that's why we allow that there, but we wouldn't have any outside parking. So we really don't see the point for 24 hours.
Right.
This is just from the code.
Yeah, we'll also furnish a photoelectric plan so that there's no light pollution leaving the site. Light pollution meaning that the residences don't have any lights blaring into their property. Any lights will have cutoffs to them too, which is what we have in Wakanda as well. Instead of just being a light that shines out like this, they are actually curved like this, and they're cut off where the light shines downward. Okay, so the 3 variances we're asking for, just to wrap this up now. We're asking for an increase in the FAR from 0.23 to 0.28. It actually comes out to 0.27 and some fraction, but we round it up. And again, why? I've said this already. It provides us with more rentable square feet. We need it to be profitable. These are minimal margins on self-storage, we don't get office building rents for this. Secondly, the hallways in our proposed multi-story building, they don't count toward rentable square feet. You can't rent a hallway. And I lose about 30% per floor in a hallway situation. So even though we have an FAR, that includes the entire footprint of the climate controlled building, we don't get that FAI, we don't get that rentable square footage. And then, I already mentioned that, you know, we're minimal margins here, and that's why we're asking for the variance on the floor area ratio. Second variance we're asking for is for the multi-story building. And again, for the same reasons, to be profitable. We can't really go, you know, we gave up a third of the property for the stormwater detention. So we're maxed out here now. We need to leave enough aisle space for the fire department. They have their requirements for turning radiuses, and such. So we're already maxed out on that. We didn't want to ask you for more than 5% on the FAR. So our only choice was to go up. So that's why we're proposing a 3-story building for the climate controlled. It would be a maximum of 35 feet. And it would have an elevator to make it accessible for anybody, including people with handicap.
No, we would be the only one with an elevator in a 5-mile radius for any self-storage. There's only one other one that has an elevator.
Yeah. I don't know how U-Haul across the street doesn't need an elevator. When we had the garden center, the garden center in Lake Zurich, we had an elevator because we had a 2nd floor. And then we were required to put an elevator in. I don't know how they don't, but anyway, but we would like to have an elevator. Doesn't make sense to go 2 stories and put in an elevator. Elevators are around $100,000 right now for a 3-stop elevator. And so it just doesn't make sense for us to do 2 stories. The elevator costs the same amount of money. All right, and lastly, the third variance is multiple buildings. I know your ordinance says 1 building per lot, but self-storage is unique. You can't do self-storage with 1 building. It just doesn't work. People need to be able to drive up to their unit. They need to be able to access it conveniently, and you can't do that with just 1 building. And we also need it to have different size units. You know, some of these, you know, like a building like this that's 30 feet wide. This one here, so this building might have all 10 by 15 units. 10 by 15 on one side, 10 by 15 on the other to accommodate the 30-foot width. Maybe this building here has 10 by 10s and 10 by 20s back to back. So not everybody wants the same size. So we want to be able to accommodate that and have, you know, the most flexibility so that we have the most number of tenants. All right, let's wrap it up. Why do we feel this is a good fit? Why would we like you to approve our use here? We think it's really quiet. We know it's really quiet, okay? It's gonna be way better than some of those other uses that are allowed in this, they're allowed by right on this site. We showed you some of those, you know, including, fast food, dog kennel, cell towers. We think we've already gone far and above the minimum landscape requirements, but believe me, we're not done there. And we'll show a completed landscape plan that includes landscaping along Route 72 so that this place really looks nice from curb appeal. We've talked about the security. Security will be state of the art. Okay, Kristen was in charge of that at our other facility, and she's got all kinds of different cameras there that capture long range, short range. And we have 32 cameras currently there. I think it's the highest and best use for this difficult property. This is a difficult property. It's not easy. And it may sit for a long, long time without anybody doing anything. And, you know, I know it doesn't look pretty right now. It's been scarred, and we'd like to turn it into a nice looking facility again. We believe it fits with the low to moderate intensity for the B2 zoning here, and the low impact it'll have on the city services and automobile traffic on Route 72. Provides that community need we talked about for people that need to store. And it'll definitely generate some very significant property taxes for the village of Sleepy Hollow. I won't be happy about that when I get my first tax bill, but it's what it'll be. It's a good sized property, and with numerous buildings like that, it'll be taxed, and Sleepy Hollow will, reap the benefit of that property taxes. So if any of you, and I know you're gonna, probably have some questions tonight as well, but I know whenever I go to a presentation, you go home and go, oh, should have asked that guy this, I should have asked her this. There's our info. You can call us anytime. Kristen usually answers the phone always, because like I said, I build it, she fills it. But if you got questions, you can email, you can call, you can check out our website at our other facility there at storemore365.com. And I encourage you to do that, because we're pretty proud of what we do. You can see the garden center business too. I was pretty proud of that. It's kind of my personality to do it right, and not do it cheap. So with that, I think that finishes our PowerPoint.
Mr. James, do you have a printout, hard copies of that you're gonna leave with, or can you provide it for the record?
He's got it on a USB, I can just share it. And put it
But
on.
I mean, to put in a file, you printed out the various slides.
I did not print them. no,
But you could.
But I could.
Oh, thank you. Please do that and submit it. Thank you.
You got Barb back? Can you hear us, Barb?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you. I've been with you the whole time.
Okay, all right, we'll start with, then we move to testimony from members of the public. I have 3 here. If anybody else can one in, please let me know. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Peter Vernon. Peter?
I'm going to amend my remarks a little bit here based on
Okay.
what the names have said here.
Okay.
That I'm 22-year resident here in the village over on Sleepy Hollow. And I'm here, I've got over 50 years in engineering and construction. The last 23 years primarily in code interpretation and enforcement. I've been a building official and code consultant for a number of municipalities and clients involved in new construction, renovation, and development. So I have an attachment on my remarks, I presume that was also shared with the commissioners. And I will be sharing that with the Board of Trustees at their next meeting, February 17th. We're circulating a petition right now regarding the current special use application for 1601. And we are requesting that language be included in the commission hearing minutes. Since January 31st, 2025, we've collected over 300 verified signatures on the petition. And the language there says, the undersigned residents of Village Sleepy Hollow wish to express to the Board of Trustees and the Board President in the strongest possible terms our displeasure with the prospect of another special use permit and zoning variances being granted to allow a storage facility to be erected on the site of 1601 Main Street. It is our opinion that such use is first not in keeping with the character of the community. It is further our opinion that the sales tax revenues from such a facility would be negligible. It further seems doubtful such an enterprise would be sustainable given there are at least 10 other storage facilities with hundreds of units available located within a 5-mile radius of this location. And then there is the IDOT access issues off Route 72. Then there are concerns regarding the ability of the site to be compliant with access road requirements for emergency vehicles specified in Chapter 5 of the adopted fire code. The undersigned residents fervently request the board to vote against allowing the special use. Now, upon tentative completion review of the application, we noted the following, that the requested variation of 0.23 FAR to 0.28. Now, the documents indicate a mix of single-story buildings varying in height to 20 feet. Individual heights are not specified, and a single 3-story inside storage building. Petitioner states that in the application, the status of the 3-story would be based on a future feasibility study.
However, any decision or recommendation should be based on a worst case scenario. Therefore, based on the information regarding the number of buildings and sizes, if I'm reading the zoning code correctly, the FAR would actually be 0.43 because of the 3 stories that would be needed to accommodate his proposal. The proposed layout does not provide access around the perimeter of the buildings for emergency or first responder equipment. It's preliminary, granted, but it's unclear if the indicated paved areas are of adequate width, radius to accommodate emergency equipment to travel through. The petitioner is requesting a variation in the required buffer yards down to 25 feet, which we believe is far in excess of reasonable accommodation. We refer to the first paragraph of section 857 of the zoning code. The following requirements are intended to mitigate potentially adverse impacts on the adjacent land uses, such as dirt, litter, noise, glare of lights, signs, and unsightly buildings and parking areas. The proposed 25-foot buffer would not reasonably achieve this goal, mitigating these impacts for the residents on Laurel Court and Rainbow Drive. The code prescribed buffers are approximately 145 feet along the Laurel Court perimeter and 93 feet along the Rainbow Drive perimeter. And that's on the sketch that is attached. The petitioners indicated in the documents, again, I'm going to amend this right now because there was no sewer
Yeah.
in there. But now you did indicate you are going to provide a bathroom.
I highlighted that because that's not what we
Right.
wanted.
So but again, that's what was in the application. Petitioner has acknowledged in their application the proposed facility could negatively impact property values in the adjacent residential districts. We believe this in itself warrants in recommending denial of the special use. It is our opinion the petitioner is not satisfied their burden of proof to establish justification for any variation to the current zoning requirements and sincerely wish the commission to recommend denial of the special use.
I think, sir. Okay, next we have Deborah.
Trying to see how. My black.
Deborah Vernon.
Oh, we didn't swear the witnesses.
Oh, no, you didn't.
No. So let's ask Mr. Vernon if what he just said is the truth and the whole truth, and I swear the other witnesses.
Would you like to ask me
You
something?
should be under oath, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
not a problem.
Sure. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you just gave, well, it was the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, the next person.
Okay, man.
We need her full name.
Yes,
Deborah Vernon.
Very well.
okay. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Hi, my name is Deborah Vernon. I live at H21 Locust Drive in Sleepy Hollow, a 22-year resident of the village, and I've been retired for years. I have a bachelor's degree in accountancy from Northern Illinois University and over 20 years experience in municipal government accounting and administration. My experience in government included developing tax levies, village budgets, monitoring developer financial obligations and requirements. I decided to get involved with this because I drive by Route 72 all the time. And I saw the trees that were removed and clear cut, and I wanted to get involved. After researching the previous special use application from 2023, as well as the current application, I found the following. The proposed special use does not conform with the Village of Sleepy Hollow's comprehensive plan that is from 2009 that is on the website. The comprehensive plan for this area of Sleepy Hollow states, the primary recommendation for this planning unit for the village is to concentrate on attracting commercial development to those parcels located along Route 72. This represents the only land remaining in the village suitable for commercial development. The parcel of land on Route 72 should be considered for office, research, or light commercial, and especially retail uses. The village should explore and secure sewage treatment capacity to make that parcel more attractive to developers. But most importantly, The land use for these parcels must be compatible with the character of the village. Furthermore, it should not unduly impinge upon the adjacent residential land uses, the residential homes. The commercial land use should comply with high standards of visual quality and environmental performance. As the petitioner's existing facility is remotely managed, I would anticipate the sales tax for sales to be minimal, but I heard that it is going to be staffed. And then just for a note of storage facilities are service related, and so there's no sales tax revenues with that. We feel the sheet metal construction type looking is certainly not consistent with the character of the village or even the adjacent commercial buildings that are in the strip. They are all brick, very attractive. The petitioner's application specifically notes that construction is not typical to the village, not typical. We feel construction of the proposed self-storage facility will likely reduce property values in the village residential districts and the commercial buildings next door. The petitioner's application states the structure may cause depreciation of property values in the residential districts. My husband was talking about the 25-foot buffer, and I think that's contrary to the current zoning code. And the way I understand it is if I was standing at the back of somebody's property, I would walk 25 feet, and that would be my only buffer. I don't know if I'm understanding that right, but that is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. If you live back there, if you have those buildings so close to you, you could have a potential hazard. And how would that affect your insurance, your homeowner's insurance? The petition in opposition to this proposal started just 10 days ago, January 31st, and we have over 320 signatures. The residents around the village oppose this project. When visiting several neighbors, this is what we keep hearing. Board members should seriously consider the results of the petition, say no to the storage facility with 320 plus signatures before making the decision, knowing that if they go against a solid majority, they are going to be going against the very neighbors they serve. Also, many residents felt their board doesn't care about their opinion. More trees were cut down than originally promised, so now the land looks like an eyesore for both Route 72 and the neighborhoods. That was the consensus I was getting from talking to people. We visited with the neighbors closest to the site on Laurel Drive and Rainbow Drive, total of 21 homes, and they stated that they don't want that. The commercial development immediately to the east of 1601 Main, West Main, has attractive structures and a beautiful landscape setting. These retail establishments have been our consistent source of sales revenue. After viewing pictures on the petitioner's existing facility in Wakanda, we feel the proposed storage facility with its unattractive buildings that to me look like individual trailers that are parked all over. That's what it visually looks like. In light of the foregoing, we feel no variations to the current zoning code requested by the petitioner should be recommended to the commission. Neither should the village board again approve variations requested by the special applicant. And the plan commission did deny this for the other person, and then the board voted the other way. If the proposed facility cannot be profitable and be compliant with the current zoning requirements, which the property next door met, then we respectively suggest taking the proposal to another community, maybe west on 72. It's still close to population, but it is more rural. This is just 2 more points. Ask yourselves, Mr. and Mrs. James, the Plan Commission, and the Village Board. I know I'm not addressing the Village Board right now. Would you want to be living behind this proposed facility with, I believe it's only a 25-foot from your lot line to the buildings? And then the last final, Sleepy Hollow, you can do better. Please do better. Say no to the storage facility. I thank you for listening to my comments. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Eddie Reese.
Edie Reese.
Edie Reese, I'm sorry, my apologies. I can just have you get sworn in.
One D in there.
You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. My name is Edie Reese, and I've been a resident of Sleepy Hollow for over 24 years. I'm again objecting to the special use of this parcel by constructing the storage facility, including the special variances being requested. Here's one thing to keep in mind. In the Sleepy Hollow Code Book, Section 8-6-5, limitation on rezoned property. In the event a property is rezoned but not used within a period of 1 year for the purposes permitted in the classification to which said property has been rezoned, the village shall have the right to institute hearings to rezone said property to the previous or to another zoning classification. Excuse me. This property was rezoned several years ago and still nothing has happened with it. I think the village should take action and perhaps change that. I'd rather see something that fits more in with the village than to add to the 10 storage facilities with over 6,000 units we have in a few mile radius of Sleepy Hollow. I was able to get a hold of the application from Mr. James that Mr. James submitted. I found some things that were I found of interest. The fact under findings of fact for hardship. Mr. James submitted that the current zoning right requirement does not yield enough rentable square footage to make the project profitable. Unfortunately, that is not our concern. I am sure there's another parcel in another city that you can construct a giant building and several outbuildings on. This is not something you want to see when you're entering Sleepy Hollow, nor is this something I want to see next to my home. No one is going to be able to convince me that there's a desperate need for another storage facility. These do not belong next to home. Speaking with several different facilities around the area, they state they were surprised that the village would even consider this so close to the residents. Those facilities are typically in industrial parks, retail shopping far enough away from homes. I don't agree with Mr. James' statement that says that people need to see where their stuff is. I don't buy that. Under finding of fact number 4, essential character. The variance will not alter the essential character of the locality. Mr. James would like to have the building similar in height to the future banquet hall. If you ever walk up to that banquet hall, it's pretty darn high. And that's going to be right next to my property. That actually impacts my property the most because I'm literally right next to it. This has been discussed and was not approved before. Again, another city may have a parcel that can accommodate such a request. Under finding of fact 3.2, the special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of another property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted and will not substantially diminish and impair property values in the neighborhood. Mr. James' comment, the self-storage will not have a negative impact on neighboring properties as it will provide landscaping, including a water feature that as it matures will provide a park-like setting and natural barrier. A retention pond cannot possibly make this facility any more desirable and park-like. Fact 3.4, the exterior architectural appeal and functional plan of any proposed structure will not be so at variance and either the exterior architectural appeal and functional plan of the structures already constructed or in the course of construction in the immediate neighborhood or the character of applicable district as to cause a substantial depreciation in the property values within a neighborhood. Mr. James, the self-storage structures will be atypical to the village character with a steel exterior components. It may cause a depreciation to the value property within residential districts. Well, that's going to impact us all on Oral Port because we're the closest. And I'm also not familiar with any steel buildings in Sleepy Hollow. If you refer to the ordinance 23-4, it clearly stated the expectations of this project. I know this parcel was for sale when I bought the house, but after seeing how strict Sleepy Hollow is with the residents, it still shocks me that this is being considered yet again. Why should I have to sell my home because of a decision made by people who do not live by it? I truly hope that the Planning and Zoning Board will once again not recommend this to the village board, and I hope the village board doesn't find a way to push it through. Thank you.
Is there anybody here that we missed that did not fill out a sheet? Just double checking. No. Anybody online? Do we have anybody online? No. Oh, you,
I may have filled out the wrong sheet.
Did you fill one out now?
I can.
Please do. Thank you. Wait for it.
That is. Okay.
That's Bill Kelly.
Oh,
He's a CASA and guardian ad litem, so that's what the initials are for.
oh. Is he on the planning and zoning?
No, he's a president. Listen, he comes to all of the board meetings, he's like.
Yeah. Well done. He should have been on.
okay, John Payton, please, we can swear in real quick.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm John Payton. I live at 1515 Laurel Court. I've been a resident for 14 years. And the presentation was James couple provided today was the most professional, best we've seen on this property, in my opinion. However, I think he pointed out two things that I just like to point out to you guys. One is I feel like the whole idea of a storage property on this parcel is putting a round peg in a square hole. For a year and a half, someone else who owns the property today has tried to make it work, and it doesn't. He's asked for significant variances to make it work. Given the current zoning, it doesn't support having a storage unit on it. Where he keeps at what his variances are asking for is trying to put the wrong sort of thing on this property. And it's been tried for a year and a half, almost 2 years already. It just doesn't work. Second thing I'd like to point out is I believe very honestly said, his motivation is his profit. And I would ask you guys to represent the village, and I believe the motivation should be to increase the revenues to the village. This idea on this property does not increase the revenues to the village much, nominal, if any. Please use the property for something better for the village that increases our revenues and is more valuable to the community that way. I don't see this property as not valuable. The last thing, those were my 2 points. Last is I still think it was wrong in the past, and it's still wrong today that for the citizens of this village, we tell them that they can't have storage units in their backyard, they can't have a storage shed. But yet we're gonna have someone who doesn't live in the village create a for-profit enterprise. Then we're forcing our residents to have to store their extra stuff at their expense monthly for someone else to profit off of it. That just seems just fundamentally wrong. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, anybody online or is it just that's nobody online?
Yeah, I don't know if Bill wants to talk.
Never call him.
I've got to text him. All right.
He doesn't spell copies of music, he's listening.
Pardon me while we wait. Mr. Vernon, did you provide a copy of that petition that you've mentioned to Mr. Schuster?
Of the petition,
Oh, Bill does not want to talk. He just texted me.
I understood that the petition is not finished yet.
no, it's circulation.
Okay, and so your statement is.
My remarks were submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Record. Did you submit a hard copy?
A hard copy was submitted to Mr. Mills, yes.
Yes.
At the last board meeting,
No, this was after the last board meeting.
you submitted another.
A hard copy of my remarks from tonight were given to Mr. Mills.
Yeah, and the girl said she.
All right.
did, and Barbara.
That's fair enough. They'll be added to this file.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to questions to the proponent by the commissioners? And we'll go ahead.
I have a question. You mentioned that there exterior storage for RVs, motorhomes, delivery trucks. Where are those gonna be parked?
There wouldn't be any at this facility. That was at our facility in Wakanda.
Okay, so there's no exterior
None.
parking.
Everything's enclosed. Yeah, everything's inside.
Thank you.
I have a question on the FAR variation request. I have no idea how you worked it out for years to get the 0.28 on this one over here. Obviously, the elevator shaft and anything like that is not included.
No, it was included.
You did include that.
Yeah.
Okay, you could take that out. But the hallways, did you include the hallways in the
Included.
FAR for 2.8?
Yes. The way we came up with the FAR ratio was the actual footprint.
Okay.
So each building's footprint was used to calculate the FAR.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, so hallways, elevator shaft, everything included.
Are your security cameras monitored or just recorded?
Just recorded.
It's uncommon for any storage facility to have cameras monitored.
We've been open a little bit over a year in Wakanda right now. And never had an issue where we need them, monitor yet. We haven't had any problems, except once there was a large dent in our fence. So I thought it was from the snowplow driver, and I had her go back and review it, and she found it, and it wasn't the snowplow driver. It was a deer that got inside the facility and couldn't get out.
What
And he made his way through the fence finally by bending the fence, believe it or not.
One of the things we do to monitor is we look at the access in and out. And if there's something that we find suspicious, then we go to the cameras and take a look. But that's a better indicator of what's happening on the properties. Who's coming in, how long are they staying, and when are they leaving?
That's why we have the keypad for getting in and getting out. So if you come in at 8 o'clock at night and you didn't leave until 8 o'clock the next morning, I know something's going on. And I'm gonna come to you and say, what are you doing?
When do you know that?
She monitors that. We know that, you can know that the next day. So that's all recorded as well. The in and the outs are all recorded.
I got a question for you about. I guess I have to get up here because I wanted to look at this. Explain it. You're gonna have entrance doors here and here, right?
Correct.
Two-sided.
Correct.
This is single. Is this two-sided?
Yes.
So you're cutting a line right in the middle of all four of those,
Not necessarily.
with garages on both sides.
Yes, correct.
How many total units is that?
It depends on how it's sized. So total units, I would approximate 300. 300 maybe? Because this building here was
You haven't
designed.
already figured that out yet?
It goes by, well, no, I haven't, because a feasibility study is gonna tell me you don't have enough 10 by 25s. Okay, you need more 10 by 25s. We have a feasibility study done, they call it a desktop feasibility study. Then you go to the next level. And you have a complete feasibility study, which goes around and gets every self-storage facility within a 5-mile radius. And how many units do they have that are 10 by 10, 10 by 15, 10 by 20? And they actually do cold calling. This is an independent, feasibility study. They'll do cold calling and say, hey, you got any 10 by 20s available for rent? Oh, no, sorry, they're on a waiting list. That goes into our feasibility study and says, we need a lot of 10x20s. Because nobody in the area seems to have enough 10x20s.
So these could change based on the feasibility study, right?
The only thing that's gonna change is where you draw this line in the middle. No, these all stay the same.
All right, so
So
your
because-
footprints are not gonna change,
Correct.
but how you're gonna cut these inside
Exactly,
to size. Okay.
exactly, exactly.
I get
And
you.
this building here and this building here, because there's no doors on the back side,
Mhm.
they're fixed as to what they're gonna be. That's how deep they're gonna be. This one here is 45 feet wide for RVs and boats. Okay, so these will be 12 feet wide. These are all gonna be 12 feet wide. Every single unit in this building here will be exactly the same, and this one too.
How tall is this building?
14 foot door, 16 feet.
And how about this one?
And by 20s, and the 20s will be.
And this will be 35 feet to these people.
Correct. Correct. All these here. This. Yes, this building, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, these 4 buildings here. Will have a maximum height of 10 feet. This building here will be a little taller. And this building, like I said, will be 16. This one will probably be 14.
And don't forget that this is a sound buffer here. This will create sound buffers from 72.
Are you gonna put a berm here, or is this just gonna be flat land with landscaping?
This here, and starting right about here, coming and wrapping around here will be a berm.
Excuse me, Mr. James, can you indicate, is that what, on the south side or the southeast side? Where did you say here?
Southeast.
All right, thank you.
Southeast side will have a berm wrapping around the pond here. There's the
How
natural,
tall will that berm be?
that'll go, the engineer isn't finished with that. I saw preliminary. It looked like it's gonna be about 8 feet tall. Because we.
Here
we-
or here?
No, here, in this southeast corner.
For overflow.
Exactly, right, because the property naturally drains to the southeast, right? So in order to hold this water, we've got to build this up. So, the person that lives. Here, you can see these, we left this highlighted very, very lightly. You see this property line here? There's a property line there. Another property line here. This property, whoever is in the corner back here, is gonna be basically looking at a landscape berm.
Do you have any idea what the height of that berm will be here? I think
Here
you
it'll
said
be
you were
more
gonna do, you're gonna do 25 feet from lot line to building?
Correct.
Now you're
This will be
indicating,
more minimal here.
I'm sorry, now you're indicating the southwest side,
South side.
south, side,
South side.
away from the pond.
Correct.
Thank you.
There's a little bit more engineering that needs to be done, including storm sewer. So, like I mentioned in my presentation, all the water that hits the site, whether it be on asphalt here or on a roof, all gets collected and goes into the pond.
Everything's gonna be paved.
Correct.
I
Everything's-
noticed in your property in the condo, not everything is paved.
There's one building there that you saw gravel, that's future, that's another building going in. Yeah. And that's why that's not paved. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, everything is paved. There's no gravel on this site. And the retention pond, engineering is complete as far as they call it acre, how many acre feet the pond needs to hold. And that was done according to King County's stormwater management ordinance. So that pond size and that is real close. I'm not gonna say it's exact yet because we need the engineering done for the stormwater management. But that's really close as to what size it's gonna be.
And you know, there's a curb cut on that top corner of the retention pond. Did you research taking traffic through there?
There, a curb cut into someone else's property.
Into the main drag.
Yeah, but that's
Main-
private property.
Well,
You're talking about-
let me just show you.
You're talking about over here, correct?
To
You're
the
talking
east.
about here.
Yeah, so you come in off of 72, you come in, here's, let's call this advanced auto.
Mhm.
You come through here, there's already curbs that go to nowhere but the field at this point, but it's just,
It's our understanding this is private property. And we reached out to the owner of this property, haven't heard back from them.
gotcha.
Yeah, Barb might, shed light on
It's,
that.
it's owned by, strip mall owner,
That's what I thought, right,
so he has rights to that.
yes, yes. Would we like to do that? Yeah. I
To keep
would,
the traffic off of 72.
yeah, I'd love that. I'd love to get access here. That would be great, because then.
But I don't
could
know
have
how
a
much
left-hand
room you're
turn.
gonna have here.
Well, that's, yeah. We would. So there's quite a bit here yet. There's quite a bit. We might be able to do that, but yeah, would we like that? We sure would. Because then I can get traffic coming from this direction and making a left in here. Now I can't. So I wouldn't be restricted with the right in and the right out.
You're gonna force people to going west to go down to Tartans and turn around in somebody's driveway and come in to get in.
Well, not a driveway, but yeah, I mean, yeah,
Cul-de-sac or something.
Drive around the
yeah.
the
Well,
neighborhood to turn around.
There is a, I'm not gonna call it a left-hand turn lane, but there is an island here. Right by the stoplight that's not being used yet as a left-hand turn lane.
To go into the resident.
No, before, well, I'm
I
not
think
sure.
it's for them to turn in their house.
But it's X off in yellow. But you may be right.
You don't want anybody doing a U there.
No, that's not what I was suggesting, but if IDOT would say, yeah, we'll use this spot here, and you could have your entrance over here.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's the old driveway. That was where the curb cut was.
Yeah,
But again, like you said, it's too close to the light.
that's what,
So
that's what
that's
our,
gonna be-
right, that's what our engineer says. He says they're not gonna allow you to do that. That's what his feeling is. He says this is where he feels IDOT would want the entrance.
How
I
long
would
do you
rather-
think, how long do you think IDOT's gonna take to give you that answer?
Your guess is as good as mine. They're, you know how they are, probably 6 months. At a minimum. Yeah, right. Right.
And one of the other variances in there, excuse me. You're looking for variations for a three-story building. And can you tell me what the exterior of that building is going to be?
Yes, on that rendering that I showed with the different colors there,
Yeah.
it mimics. It mimics a stucco look, but it's not stucco. It's a they call them insulated metal panels. IMPs, okay, but it looks like stucco.
Our commercial buildings over there, we only have a few, but they are all brick. And I think asking for variance, I don't think that's gonna look that good in the village here. I think brick is what would be looking for on that.
We did have some stone veneer at the bottom of that
I
building.
saw that. It was
Yeah.
just a little bit, about
Yeah.
5 feet up, 4
Yeah,
feet
I
up.
think 4 feet probably, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really like that. I'm glad you did not come back with steel. But that's what the lower buildings are going to be, correct? And now you got you got the long one that the back end faces west. That's all gonna be steel in the back. That's right. You're using that as actually a fence back there. an area.
Correct. Yep, we call that, yes.
Now you got the what, 1, 2, 3, 4 other ones that are from the street to the backside. The one that's at the street side, will that have garages all across the front facing 72?
Yes. Yes, right here, this is the short building right here.
Yeah,
This one here, yes. Yes,
Okay,
we need to show what we are. You know, we do need to show that. That's the only doors that'll face 72 here. You know, these here all face inward.
That's some of our best advertising is to see the doors, so people know what we are.
That's why we want to be on Route 72. That's why, you know, it's part of the market. So,
If you see a lot of like 3-story buildings and other storage facilities, they'll have fake doors on the outside facing the street just to tell people this is what we do. So
Yeah.
we're not asking for that, but we do need doors to face out.
yeah, and like Kristen mentioned, that the 3-story building on other, you know, some of the other REITs like Public Storage and U-Haul, they actually put the corners in glass.
Yeah.
So that you can see the units behind the glass.
And those are not real units, those are fake.
Yeah,
homes.
usually, right, and usually most of that is all fake, yeah. But it's, again, it's, you know, you gotta kind of show what you are, you know,
can understand
you
that.
know,
Thank you.
thank you.
One thing that I didn't talk about it is will this all be fire suppressed?
Yes, unfortunately, yes, your fire code here, requires us to sprinkle all of the buildings.
So you'll
Not-
dry? and
It'll be a
these-
dry system because
And then
these,
you'll have the regular system in the
correct.
3-story.
Exactly, you know, and, you know, to be completely transparent, you know, we don't need the sprinkle in Wakanda. Lake County does not require sprinkling of the drive-up buildings. It does require it in multi-story.
We have
But-
firewalls in
Yeah,
our facility in Wakanda.
right, we have firewalls as well. That's another reason for the
So each
break.
of your, let's say it's a 10 by 20 unit, that is compartmentalized with a fire rated wall?
No, it fire rated according to what the ordinance is for how many square
Okay,
feet you can
okay.
have and then a firewall,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but that's another reason to break up the buildings, you know, like we have here too. Otherwise, we just have, you know, firewall and then 10 units, a firewall, 10 units, firewall, you know. It gets very redundant to have so many firewalls. And again, just each firewall is around $35,000. So again, it just gets so cost prohibitive. This isn't office space or retail. It's self-storage. So, yes, the drive-up buildings here will be sprinkled.
Okay,
Yeah, your fire district here requires that,
thank you.
you know, and it's, I just hope that, you know, I hope it works right. Cause I've had experiences at the garden center where a sprinkler head goes off in the middle of the night. And you know, and it's a mess when you come in the morning and in a drive-up unit, like on tonight, if one of those would go off, I'll have 10 lawsuits the next morning for us watering and freezing water all over everybody's unit. But it's what your fire code requires. We don't necessarily agree with it. Doesn't sound like a good idea to me, but that's what we're gonna have to do.
Thank you.
Like most people in here, I've known Pete for all the years that we've all been in the community. It seems like everyone's here, whether you're on the zoning committee or not, for a number of years. And I do appreciate what you presented tonight because it is better than what we saw last time. But having said that, I still have the concerns of the resident in mind. And I think maybe if the shoes were flipped here, you were in our seat, you probably had that same feeling, maybe just to your community, not necessarily about your proposal, but in general, you have more concern. And is there any way, so I'm concerned with the residents that are going to be adjacent to it, specifically on the south side. And there may be some still even on the west. But is there any way that you could make that if you took out, I'm just gonna say, took out that lower building, that's one there, and then you push the fence back another, whatever that is, 35 feet? Or is there any, I guess what I'm asking, is there any movement in an opportunity to minimize what you're doing, so we minimize impact on the residents that are around that? It's not the answer, and I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm just asking the question, just in general right now.
it again, like I mentioned, it's gonna reduce the rentable
I
square
know
feet
it's
again.
economics, I
Yeah,
understand,
right.
and that's why I get it.
It comes down to that, right, it comes down to that. It's something that we can look at.
Yeah,
We can look at that, but, I know how, we're tight now.
I think tonight, if you were here with residents, we'd feel a lot better, or something that was gonna be a good neighbor to you, and I'm not saying you're a bad neighbor, but it's a different use. You've got a business next to a residence, and that's not why people in Sleepy Hollow live in Sleepy Hollow, and you probably know that from even where you're at. So I'm still siding on the side of our residents that although this is something that is better than what we saw before, and I give you both credit for it. Unfortunately, I still feel it's not the right, I wish somebody would come in here and say, well, I want residences in this, it kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
so. But I also know the value of the property, and like you said, where it's at on 72, visibility and so forth, but. Personally, I can't get over, if I was a neighbor adjacent to that, I would sure hope that whoever's in the leadership role and had the opportunity to. Give some pushback on it would do it, and I guess that's where I'm still at, so certainly, like I said, I think your proposal was a lot more, was better than what we saw before. I just think for me, it always still comes down to the location of where it's at more than anything.
And I understand what you're saying, and we understood that going into this. But when you have residential abutting a commercial property, what do you do?
When we did our facility in Wakanda, we made our presentation at the Wakanda Public Library. And that room was full of neighbors that were against it. There was probably
125 people.
And they did not want it in their backyard, but when we got approved and we started building, we have not heard a peep from anybody. We've actually been a really good neighbor, and I think that they're surprised.
Where in Wakanda is it?
It's Old Grand Road and Route 12. It's actually right across the street from Ferry's.
Okay.
And it butts up against the Tamarack subdivision, and people were there, they were protesting, they didn't want it in their backyard, NIMBYs we call them, not in my backyard.
Yep.
But when we got approved and we built, we've heard not a sound, they've been great neighbors and vice versa.
And how many acres is that facility?
25.
23 total.
Much
but-
larger.
Yeah, oh yeah,
than what
yeah.
we're talking here.
But we're developing approximately 12 acres of that site. Okay, not,
All of 23?
yeah,
The rest of it's green space.
yeah, right, but we, the 12 acres there, but to your point though, we understand,
Yeah, I'm just wondering, having said what I did. And I'm not saying this is the answer, but is there flexibility in minimizing your amount of buildings that you have on that south side of the property? And the detention basin, and just trying to make it more of what residents have been a bit, we all were shocked once the trees went, and now we're talking about being X amount of feet from there with a 16-foot high building. So,
no, that building would be 10.
okay,
Yeah,
10.
that one would be 10
Okay,
when you're.
but I'm just wondering, is
The
it,
other one,
is it that your economics are, it's gotta be this or it's nothing, or could it be closer to more, if you will, to 72 and not so close to the neighbors?
well, again, one of the things that limits us here on the footprint is the size of that retention pond. That retention pond is huge for this property. That retention pond is about the same size as what we have taking care of 12 acres in Lake County.
The slope.
It's
Sure.
yeah. But I'm not gonna say yes or no, but I'd be willing to look at it. And be willing to look at it, but to your point. It's always difficult when you got residences here and commercial here, and I understand the residences don't want anything there. But it is commercially zoned,
Yeah.
it's commercially zoned, and you gotta attest to that.
Yeah,
It is commercially zoned and something is gonna go there someday, whether it be this or something else. Of course, this is what, we would like you to approve this, but yeah, there's always gonna be a conflict with that. And that's why we're proposing some very intense landscaping. We're certainly even more flexible on landscaping. There, if the residences feel that's not enough, I want more. We're willing to talk about that, you know. That's been my, you know, for most of my adult life, has been growing trees and creating landscapes. And
I think if you were bringing your nursery here that you
Yeah,
had,
right.
we wouldn't be having this hard decision.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be a welcome to have more greenery and more of what this community is about. We're not about commercial buildings, and we're fortunate that we do have what we have, and it's a good neighbor where it's at. So it's just tough to try to say, you know, we want. And so it's nothing certainly against you specifically. It's just the idea of who we are and reflecting on who we want to be in the future as well. And trying to put ourselves collectively here in the board, in the shoes as you would hope they would be if we were your community presenting this to you.
But like I've said too, I think that our use has got to be better than a cell tower, a dog kennel,
No question.
McDonald's drive-through, you know, McDonald's, I mean, you know, there's a lot, and I think, that, you know, if you asked, somebody here about, could McDonald's come in tomorrow and slap down and build, you know, plans and say, I want to build McDonald's here? I don't know that you can say no if it's a permitted use. And I don't think that's what the residences would like. I really don't think you want that, you know, but that's possible.
We feel this is more office type space, because of the quiet, because it looks at the buildings, because of the use. I mean, office spaces right now are being converted to self-storage because nobody's using them.
And I think once that landscape, you know, is planted and matured, the buildings become invisible, especially, and again, it was very conscious, we made a real conscious effort to put small buildings along that south property line there. 10 feet is as tall as that building is gonna be, the one that, you know, you're talking about eliminating.
That's why I asked if you have adjustment, if you're, you know, I know you want X, but it could be X minus so that we get further away from the neighbors. That's what I'm getting. If there's no discussion there, then personally for me, it's no. And I don't know how the rest of the folks would talk at the table here, but that's just my personal feeling. There would have to be concessions that our residents feel good about before I would vote yes. I'm gonna listen to them, because if I was in their shoes, I sure would hope they would listen to me.
Understood. And I'm, you know, I'm willing to put a pencil to it and take a look at it.
I think I heard, well, talking about, with the residents behind there, there's two things we're gonna look at. There's noise and light. Now, I think you mentioned you're gonna do a photometric of, the lights, because there's nothing in here that tells me about the lights or anything, what you're gonna have standards around the walls, whatever.
Right.
That would have to go, but we certainly don't, you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning when the mason contractor gets all his stuff out of his bay over there, and he's throwing it back on the back of his truck to go out. That's a lot of noise. Now that's well, that's a lot of noise that can be there. And it depends on what you got. Probably most of the people, I guess you would have, you mentioned earlier that they don't visit this very often.
They don't.
Now, is that the low rise or is that the high rise?
Both,
Both?
yeah.
Okay. So the second part I'd be looking at is the lighting that you're gonna have over there, because that's gonna blend over, and it can, we actually have an ordinance here in town that you cannot have your light go past your property line.
We understand that. Yep.
Okay,
And we would adhere to that, of course.
okay,
That, yes, part of the ordinance, and we would follow your ordinance with, and that's what the need for the photometric plan.
right,
We would have probably 3 pole lights at the entrance for safety. Other than that, all the lights would be building mounted. And they have that, I
shield,
forget the cutoffs, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
They have those cutoffs so that the light is channeled downward, not out to the residences. So when they're looking, if they would even see it, they're gonna be looking at a light swept on the building, not any light shining in their face.
Okay, so on the back of the three-story building, there would be no lights that go out.
Correct. Correct, right. And you're right, the ordinance says no light pollution
That's right.
leaves the property. And of course, we would adhere to that.
Thank you.
What is the rentable square feet that you calculated amongst all those buildings?
Approximately 55,000 on the footprint.
You're
So if it's
subtracting
three-story,
hallways or?
if it's three-story and subtract the hallways, you're gonna be. I'm gonna do some quick math in my head here, because you're at 15,000 square feet, I believe, on each floor, so. So at about 20, you'd be at about approximately 75,000 rentable square feet with 3 stories.
Of just that one building.
No, total, the whole site,
But you only have one building that's 3-story.
correct,
That's what I mean.
correct.
And what do you think?
That building is approximately 15,000 square feet. I'm rounding up, it was 14 something, it's approximately 15,000 square feet per floor. And then subtract 30%.
And what do you anticipate renting that for? Per square foot?
Climate controlled. Should rent for. Right now, U-Haul, I think, is around $1.20 a square foot. The one
And then
across the street. Yeah,
He said we're not.
that climate depends on the size. The building to the west will probably be about 80 cents a square foot. Because those are bigger units. The other ones, probably, the other drive ups, probably about 90 cents a square foot.
So you said the most prevalent size that you will rent, as far as you know right now before the study, would be a 10 by 20?
Yes, that's our most popular size in Wakanda.
And
right
what
now.
is that gonna be per square foot? Rental? If I'm gonna wanna go
Do the math at 90 cents times 200.
90 cents,
Times 200.
it's $180.
Okay.
Okay,
10 by 20 and Wakanda's 179 right now on our website.
and what do you think the assessed property value is gonna be when you complete this? I mean, I've seen other stuff, maybe it was right back. He said it was a $5 million investment when it was all said and done. Are you in that ballpark?
That definitely, probably more than that. If it's a 3-story building, it'll be definitely more than that.
How much more? 6, 7?
No more than 7. You know, it wouldn't be any more than 7.
My big issue, in order to give you an answer that you want, is the construction of the exterior of these buildings. Like I said, I went up to your Wakanda facility, and it looks like you're gonna build, from what the pictures I've seen, you're gonna use that same corrugated vertical siding. And you're gonna have it white with red accents on your name, correct?
Correct.
To me, that doesn't blend with Sleepy Hollow color scheme. We're an old community from the late 50s. We're brown. We're brown brick. Yeah, maybe they're not in style anymore, but we have to have it blend. And so, like Dan had to ask you, I mean, the interior units, okay, but the exterior ones that are gonna face the neighborhood, in my estimation, they need to be brick and they need to match with the decor of Sleepy Hollow. So you can tell me right now, or maybe you can't, is that even a feasibility for you, cost wise?
Brick? No. It changes the whole type of construction. Now you need foundations to support the brick.
Because right now you're just slabs on all those, right? How about the 3-story?
Well, that'll have a foundation. Of course,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, could there be brick or let's call it stone? I like the look of stone better, but it's more modern and up to date than
But
brick.
that's the glue line that you're talking about.
Veneers,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a veneer panel, but it looks exactly like, you can't tell the difference.
I mean, we're gonna have to look at this thing for 50 to 100 years. That will count. It's all brand new and it's a huge facility for you and I get it. And cost and expense today, but it's gotta blend with the community. And yeah, it's a tough piece of property. That's why it's sat there for how many years it's sitting.
Right.
And I mean, you've hit all the points. To put a doctor's office there, maybe, but there's no demand for that.
No,
I'm sure there's some kind of common ground we can come to on the looks. I mean, I'm sure we can work with you somehow.
well, if we worked on what faces 72, I think is that what you're saying that you want?
No, I mean, I'm worried about the residents.
South and west.
So, if you don't mind. This. I'm gonna want the bigger berm. So. You can't impact these people. I get it. They bought it. They knew that they had that property there. It was their gamble. I did that same thing in my own personal life and I got, the short end of that stick. So I get it, but.
Are you saying that if the back of the building?
You can have these interiors that we don't see.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So. if the
But,
back of
I
this-
mean, if you're gonna do a back, you're gonna do a foundation anyway, right? So you do a foundation, brick that, probably this one. I don't know. You're gonna do that gray,
I could buy your argument for what faces Route 72. I could buy that argument there,
No.
but I
that
don't.
I
but
don't care as much about.
But I don't, yeah, see, that's where I would think you want.
This is where we have our problems.
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost,
Someone
whether
looking
I
out
can
their,
say that or not,
someone looking out their back window and seeing a huge white building, like, I mean, maybe how tall or short or, but just a big white thing.
it's just not a rich looking
What if we
design.
But those are only 10-foot buildings now. Along the west, I'm sorry, the south side, it's only 10 feet tall. It seems, I don't know, it seems like belts and suspenders to me to put brick there and then hide all that brick with landscaping.
But then it would blend. It would
You wouldn't
match,
even
it
see it then, there's just
would
some white
match how
thing.
all these homes look.
What if the back of the
But you
building
won't
was
see,
brown?
you won't see that.
If we made the back of the buildings brown instead of white?
It's still that material, it's just not turning me on.
You're gonna see a
So,
35-foot building no matter what for 10.
Yeah, not even talking about the height variance for sure, yeah. We haven't even gotten there
Yeah,
yet.
that's totally different. But. That's my two.
I hear you, I think,
I
would echo that I think it's just, and I don't think, to your point, it's a bad design for a commercial space, right? I thought the 3-story looked nice in and of itself, right? In the rendering, it looks like a nice building, but just consistent with what we have already and the strip mall that's already there and the auto zone and the Dunkin' that's right there has, the brick bottom and whatnot. Yeah, I think that's a big issue. And I think, yeah, it's not very tall, but it would take up their whole view of the backyard. And I also think it's a raised, I don't think the topography plays a significant role in the property, but it goes up to 72, right? So you're gonna be fighting against a little bit of a raise in the grade anyway for the homeowners. So, but I agree. I mean, I also, I don't want to pigeonhole us. I think Bill made a good point. Like, there's a certain amount of risk when you buy a property like that, but I think there's also fairness to the property owners that we're trying to uphold, right? And I don't think you have any, we already talked about this. One other concern I have is the 25 feet. There's no, because you've basically configured the property to maximize both available open space for emergency vehicle access and such, and the pond, but also maximize FAR and RSF, correct? You through 8 iterations.
Yep.
Working to get there, right? So I think.
Yeah, all of the turning radiuses have already been accounted for. This is not something that we sat down and drew on the kitchen table. This is engineered. Those buildings and the returning radius has all been engineered for fire trucks access.
But meaning also, if you improve the 25 foot to 40 to give the the homeowners some comfort, And then that pushes everything in and eliminates that opportunity. So then you have to get rid of maybe 1 or 2 buildings and then you lose your RSF. So like it just, yeah. And I also want to echo the other sentiments we've heard. This is a professional presentation. We appreciate it very much. And also the candor and transparency with how you're approaching it. We appreciate you also. I think that, you know,
Thank you. That's the way we do business. Yeah, we want to have full transparency. I hate surprises, and I'm sure everybody else does too.
Absolutely.
If that retention pond wasn't so big, Kane County's requirement for that retention pond is ridiculous.
So help me understand that.
Because then we could have shifted things over that way to the east more, and we could have probably made a bigger buffer along the south property line.
So that's based on the engineer's expectations of the water that appears to accumulate based on the layout of the property and then also Kane County's requirements.
Yes, it's, yes.
Because you mentioned there's kind of a certain amount of that that's still pending, like the final engineer's report, but you're pretty confident on the size of that base, I'm sure.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a big.
Because it doesn't do you any good, right?
Yeah, Kane County's requirements are far above other surrounding counties. Lake, McHenry, Kane, they don't have the same requirements that Kane County does. I don't know why Kane County is so big. So I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
But
You know how many
yeah,
storm sewers are feeding into that retention pond?
are there any,
How many will be flowing into there? Underneath the ground? 3?
at the most, maybe 2, yeah, maybe 2, because they're all gonna get connected. You know, they'll probably, the pitch will be from here to here. And then they'll come to here, and this is probably where it will gather here, and then I would say it comes out here. It may end up being 1, but I would say probably 2. I would say there'll probably be 1 this way and 1 here.
And it's I can't read this, it's so small, but it's does this say a 5-foot retaining wall
Yes,
that you have as an L shape there?
yes,
And
that was to help confine the pond by about 15 feet. We were able to move the pond 15 feet to accommodate the climate controlled building.
moved it east?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Otherwise, without that retaining wall there, it's more of a spread,
They want more of a
gradual slope.
gradual,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got it, I
right,
got it.
exactly. This way we pushed it and put a retaining wall in to gain an extra 15 feet. I mean, I can make that retaining wall bigger and try to shrink the pond, but it's all about expense again, these retaining walls. Then it's gotta have, an engineer up to 5 feet, you don't need engineering. After that, you do, it's gotta be engineered. And you gotta have geogrid and all this, to support the soil, and so it doesn't cave in.
Now you showed 2 different kinds of fencing. And up in Wakanda, I took close note of that. And I am not a fan of chain link fence. And you show on a colored map of that, and is the fencing on there?
It is
The
not.
dotted? It's not on there.
No,
You have that anywhere, and is that the only drawing you have?
I don't have
You had a slide, Mr. James, showing the fencing in Wakanda. Are you gonna use the same pipe fencing?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah, okay, so you do have this in your packet there.
Is yours colored?
Yeah. Yours is not?
I don't have color.
Oh.
Oh, there you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So this, you're gonna use that black painted,
Yep.
I'm assuming,
Wrought
and
iron.
this is
I
gonna
mean, I'm
be.
sorry, aluminum.
Yeah,
Aluminum, yes, and this is the chain. Yeah.
The chain link will be where? For the record?
Yeah, Bill, it's at the back.
Basically,
There's a thick package.
between,
Your packets don't
Yeah,
have
but I
the
just,
color.
it's this where he's actually
Yeah.
putting the
Oh,
2
oh,
different
yeah,
variations.
oh,
I needed to
okay.
clarify.
Can you
You can pass
recite
that
that
around.
for the record?
Yeah.
that's 2.
The chain link is on the Route 72 side?
No, the other way.
It's around the pond.
And that'll be black aluminum, the red.
And the black aluminum is along the roadway.
Correct.
So
And the height is on the chain link
the blue is
6
chain
feet.
link, the red is.
And the black,
and no barbed wire at the top?
6 feet.
Any other like security, I mean, just a 6 foot chain link, I mean, any like barbed wire, I mean, I didn't say barbed wire, that's a good question, I mean, no, or,
It's again, you cannot use barbed wire anymore. We tried to do it in Wakanda and we were told that that's cruel and unusual punishment. So barbed wire is out now. Can't use it.
and you guys have a 6 foot fence out there now?
We do.
And has there already been like people trying to hop it or anything, any?
Only that one
Just the
deer.
deer, yeah.
One deer got in. And other
Which
than that-
fence was it that the deer tried to get through?
Was it the chain link or the aluminum?
Chain aluminum, right? Got it.
Aluminum. He couldn't get through the chain link.
Right.
No, but he did spread the bar.
Stuck in the middle
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit it,
Couple times.
3-4 times. Yeah,
Squeezed his way through.
yeah, he finally got through.
And the aluminum is 6 foot, right?
6 foot.
Everything in.
Everything, all fencing at 6
Okay.
feet. Yes.
Is there any way you could make that concession? To do all the black aluminum and get rid of the chain link?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's a fair request.
I'm gonna follow that up. Is it what you have shown is what it is, or you're not, you wouldn't modify that either?
What are we, would
The
modifying?
distance from the neighbors that are to the south of your property. Like if you took those two lower rectangles and you pushed it up, so you got 3 at the top. You lost 2, and we push everything to the north. And that's what I'm asking.
To put in the aluminum fencing, the black aluminum fencing versus chain link, I can answer that question. No, I can answer that and concede to that easily enough because I know the cost of that.
Right.
That's easy. But to eliminate that building, I need, like I said, I
understand.
really need
Okay.
to sit down and
Sure.
look at it, because it'll re-engineer the whole site. Because those turning radiuses are gonna change for the fire trucks. Will we need to shrink the climate control building then a little? I got a hunch, yes, we would have to, because again, turning radius there, because if I move that up, if I move that, that green line up to the north, yeah, that's gonna impact the climate control building. So it's hard for me
I
to
know.
give you an honest answer. I
I'm not kidding, I'm gonna
I
say-
wanna be transparent.
Yeah,
and
it's a
tell you.
goal. I'm just asking, I think, part of the issue too is we're sitting in here and we're not out there.
Mhm.
And I think that, I don't know, I know this is time and money for you, but for us, it's our community that we're trying to represent well.
Well, let me ask you this,
And I
what,
just wonder if we were there and had the residents with us that are adjacent to that, and we said, because then it's more understandable because of the topography going up, right? The trees have been cleared, that hurts us. And I'm not saying it would be anything that would change anybody's opinion, but we would have a better understanding certainly of what your concessions are. To be able to then talk with residents and see how they feel. That's the only way for me personally that I even consider moving forward with what you have, because if the residents don't want it, and I was their shoes were reversed, I would sure hope they would tell me that respect what I would ask them. So I'm not asking personally, I'm asking for our community.
what if, when do you, how often do you guys meet? When do you meet again?
The second month. Once a month.
Yeah.
Second Monday.
March 10th.
Is it possible that we table this and I look at your suggestion? And then come back to you and say,
Go to the property with the residents with us that want to join us.
well, what I'm saying is if I go back to my engineer
Yeah.
and we see if we can re-engineer this
Sure.
based on,
Because we
some of the
everybody's got-
comments that I've been
yeah.
hearing tonight.
I think if you're open to that, because our residents are gonna wanna know that. Everybody at this table wants to know that. I know the village president does. So it would be, we'd all know whatever we determine, that it would be yes or no, but we would have a better sense of it. And then it's up to you. I know it's more time, but without that, for me, it's still not enough to say yes.
Well, it's, of course, sure, it's more time, and money spent on soft soft
I
costs here,
understand.
but I
But if
understand.
somebody lives there for 50 years, they don't care what,
Yeah,
what it costs.
But I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm listening and
I know
I'm
you
hearing
are, and I
what
reflect
everybody
what the
wants
other
here.
are saying, your presentation's better, But I still think that we have to get the residents involved in this. Personally, it's my opinion. Other folks at the table may not agree, but that's my feeling. And I want them to be the ones that help make a decision for them because they gotta live with it. I don't.
Yeah.
I do in the sense that it might be a decision that we all collectively make. I want to make a good decision that we all move forward with and everybody does, we did the right thing.
And I want you to understand that there was a real conscious effort on studying, like I said, this is the 8th site plan we've done, okay? And putting the retention down here and putting this berm here. I can try to include what the elevation here and how tall this berm would be. But, you know, a very conscious effort was made to try and have a minimal impact on the south property line here, especially with this building and this building and this building and this building being a maximum of 10 feet tall.
What's the distance of that green space at the bottom of your site plan? Approximately.
I think it's 25. I think it's 25.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm just gonna, with the yards that we have, 50, it would be like, you know, more of a norm. And I might need to be 100, but that's what I'm kind of getting to. It's hard when all of us look at a drawing and scale, even if we do it every day. You get out there and we understand the topography and what could be planted to help make it work. And I'm not saying it's going to.
Point out, because we've got, you know, Green Spire Linden and Emerald Green Arborvitae and Autumn Blaze Maple, those trees get big. They're gonna get much, much bigger than this building will ever be.
But the distance will always be that, you know, if one of those trees dies, now the neighbor's looking at the back of a unit.
Well,
And trees,
then
you know,
do the same thing that Lake County did to us. You have a maintenance program put in place then, you know, and we have to maintain it. If it dies, gotta replace it.
right, I understand,
But like to Kristen's point, here, look, these are arborvitae's
right.
in front of a building here that looks to be 15 feet tall, and they're 5 feet taller than that building. And which is why, I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Bill.
Bill, when Bill was pointing out, you know, hey, you know, change the color or do something, put some brick back here. You'll never see it once this stuff matures. You know, here's a nice berm here with mature landscaping on it. You know, here's a.
Because they're evergreens planned, sorry. They're evergreens
So
planned.
these are evergreens here.
They would be totally solid in the green space indicated on the diagram. They would be zero line of sight is the plan between the residence and the building because of the landscaping. That's what you're talking about.
Well,
From south looking north because of the green.
100%, 100%? No, not, there are some space here.
Sure.
But it's, yeah,
You
right.
might see it in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Okay,
Right,
sure,
and
yeah.
some
We're
of,
pretty close. though,
but we're mixing.
reasonably.
the
shielded.
green dots here are all evergreens. Yellow and red are deciduous, meaning it drops its leaves.
Okay.
So if the residences say, hey, we want more evergreens, we don't care about the color, we want it screened, fine, we'll change that. We'll put in more evergreens here.
But those Black Hills spruce get large.
Yeah.
Here's Black Hill spruce right there.
Still
yeah.
talking 35-foot by 85-foot wide wall. That's a solid wall.
Hey, guys, if we gotta keep it to the,
Sorry.
we gotta keep it to. Okay,
So my suggestion, if you guys would like to do this, if you want me to go back and take a look at it, see if we can make some concessions like has been suggested tonight. You know, we're here to listen too. We're not just here to talk and try to convince you. We're listening. And if you'd like to table this and have us go back to our engineer, see if we can do some drawing and put a pencil to it again to see if this is gonna be profitable, then we'd be willing to do that.
First off, I'd like to go along with that. This is probably the best presentation that we've ever had, frankly. Now, I got a question for you. The way you have the location of the buildings there, you've got fire department access all around the 3-story. And you got, I don't know if they're gonna make the turns, but you say they can make the turns. Have you talked to the fire department? You got 2 buildings that back up right to your line there. They can't get around it. Are they gonna ask for that? Be having a corridor there?
I don't, it's in my notes who I talked to there. But they.
That's gonna make a big difference.
Yeah, what I've been told is that if they can get access with a fire hose, that they would allow that. only on those two perimeter buildings though. But they need access with the hose. So I think that they'd be able to get access to all of those.
Well, that would make sense if you took that last south building out. It would solve that problem. It would solve the problem for the residents because you could create more of a berm and buffer. And I don't know how much that would do if you took that out. I mean, do you
That's
have
a
any
10
idea
foot
what that
tall?
is? Yeah.
10 foot tall.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, if you just.
20 feet wide there.
Yeah, on the bottom. Let's see. You take this out
Yep.
and maybe shorten this. So you had all this to hide and build up. And have trees and evergreens grow over the years. I know this is gonna be a square footage loss for you.
That's the smallest building, it's
But
like 30.
what are you figuring here, 20 feet in between,
No, those are
30?
25. No, I think they're 20.
Well, that's only
30.
a one depth. It's not.
I think they're 25.
The one on the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those aisles there. are
So this is
25.
another 45 feet to what did we have here?
25.
25.
So yeah, you get.
Now we have 70 feet,
Yeah.
getting closer to the 100 that we originally wanted with, right?
Correct. Yeah, 45 and 30, correct, yeah, 70 feet.
But can you say right now, if you eliminate that, you could make the map work?
I don't think-
I'm gonna try.
So can I defer to Barb and Mr. Schuster? Is that a possibility to table the public hearing until he can
Well,
rework the plans and come back? Or we have to do
Close it,
another-
well, the answer is yes. You could leave the public hearing open and recess it, or you could close it and consider what he comes back with, but that may engender some other public comments, so you may want to leave it open. The answer is yes, either
Sure.
way,
And leaving it open would allow further public comment.
yes.
Okay.
And it would also assist with not having to do the public notice and have the signage up, because we're continuing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct,
bring it
Mr.
to the
Schuster?
public. Right, correct,
Because
And that's a recess.
yes.
Yeah, it'd be a recess to reconvene, but we'd have to establish a date to reconvene.
Would be
Good
March
night.
10th.
March 10th, yeah.
I mean, that would be the first suggestion would be March 10th, second Monday of the month.
And would that be enough time for you to work with your engineers to get a reasonable?
March 10th would be plenty of time, yes. The problem though that I have right now is that with Mr. Rybeck, my contract with him expires the middle here of February. I reached out to him for an extension. He verbally said yes, but I don't have anything in writing yet, and I asked him for the extension a month ago. So,
We had, But he said, because we have his blessing on the record during the
yeah, he
application.
signed on here.
So I think I'm wondering if that's gonna be fine for it.
that's.
Well, that's
that-
fine for us, but it's not exactly.
No, of course.
Between-
But I mean, for the public,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a pressure for him.
Yeah, I would say you'd want to get that
Make
answer.
sure it's
certainly.
We've been asking him, right, like I said, I've been told that he signed an extension, but I've yet to see it. So, let's assume he's, that he signed it and we do have an extension.
Well, we gave him a 6-month extension.
Yeah, right.
Remind him of that,
Yes, yes. Okay, I'll remind you of that.
So the protocol would be a motion to recess until March the 10th.
Correct. Recess the public hearing until March 10 at 5:30 again, gentlemen. Ladies?
Chris? Chris, can you make March 10th?
I don't know if I can, but the office for sure can.
Okay,
I would try, I just don't know my
Some-
schedule.
Yeah, it's 30 days away. I
sure.
hope you could schedule.
For sure.
something.
So I'll make a motion to recess the public hearing until March the 10th at 5:30.
And I'll second that emotion.
Wait,
You still,
I have one
Well-
thought.
Well, just a minute. There's a motion and a second, right? On the
Right.
floor.
Okay.
Now you call for discussion. There's some comments to my left. I
Yeah.
think.
Go ahead.
No, I just, I know it's nice to look at things on paper, but I'm old school. I like to go to the site. And with the residents that are there, that live adjacent to that property and understand from your perspective what you're proposing so that the residents got a clear understanding of what they would be a scenario for them. I think that would be, because paper's always, we can't read topography, we don't know how bad it looks back there or whatever. And I think if we were to have something more interactive with our community and invite them, I think that would go a long way for all of us, for myself specifically, to understand what your intention is, and then how our residents that are adjacent to that feel about that as well. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's gonna come up to the residents personally. If they still don't feel comfortable with it, I'm not gonna vote for it. And you have done a tremendous job, both of you. So I don't mean any disrespect to either of you. It's just that I'm here representing, as you would be, your community, and that's the end of the day. That's why, all of us are here, obviously.
We're trying to work with the residents.
I know you are. Believe me, like I said, everybody.
But I don't know if we'll ever satisfy the residents.
You may not. We're hard to work with, and you know what? We're kind of glad about that, because we don't like a lot of change. So that's just who we are. I've been here 35 years, and there's not too much change. Same schools there, my kids went to. Pete's been there he was my neighbor for 20-some years, so I get it, but that's why we live here, because we don't have things that are just popping up and there's, a new 7-Eleven or something's going in town. And so this is a big one. And because we're on 72, all the things you guys understand, but it's also the things that I'm looking out for, who's living next to this, it's got to look at that every day.
So Mr. Adelano, you should be addressing the chair on this for discussion amongst the commission. I appreciate it.
Excuse me, well, I can't help it.
But the question I would have then is, are you suggesting that the commission hold a meeting on site?
No, not that. I think we're gonna look at it.
You personally have a chance to have a meeting?
No, I think it would be everybody that has an opportunity to meet on site and have that same discussion and understanding. It's not, if I have one person or two people, I don't know.
Well, it can be done that way. You could start the meeting at the site, but at 5:30 on March.
No, you're not gonna start. Yeah.
You might want to have a special meeting at another time when majority of the commission or all the commissioners can be present. But it would be a meeting we'd have to notice.
I just think.
And it can be done that way.
Yeah,
right?
it's hard looking at paper. We're all trying to, unless you're there looking at something, for me, it's so.
Would you need to get permission
Yeah,
from?
that's not our property.
Ryback?
It's
Oh,
Mr.
absolutely.
Ryback.
Yeah, I
Could be a
can't, right.
Liability issue, especially with the trees down.
No, it's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And-
Maybe, Mr. Shoes, maybe it's not even, maybe that's not feasible. So it's just,
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're discussing among the commissioners. so.
And it's going to be very hard for the court reporter to be taking
Well, we
record
could-
out in the middle of
we
the
couldn't
field.
We'd have to do it on audio recording of some kind. But or Mr. Florence with a handheld camera.
But what are we having Mr. James and his wife go back to the drawing board on? Can we be specific about that?
That's a great idea. And I
I've been
think,
pretty specific.
well, I would say,
In my mind, might be different than yours, so I'll state
Please,
what I'm thinking
please.
is take out the south building.
Right.
yes. And I would put it more generally as just increase the setback from the property
Increase
from the
berm
south
height.
and the west. And potentially look at, reworking the plan for more aesthetically consistent with what the village already has.
Because this is really a landscaper's heaven in Sleepy Hollow. You've probably driven through it enough, and I'm a big fan of that myself. So, that aspect of what you brought to this equation compared to Ryback is light years ahead. So, but it's still just too close to the residents, if you have one of my things.
Right.
And if you can work that,
What's our attorney's name again? Schuster, Mr. Schuster.
I think you and Kevin are basically on the same page there. You want the building out and he wants more of a setback. Well, that accomplishes both things there. Yeah.
Mr. Plass wants to say.
For us here tonight, we were really looking here to vote on 4 variations, I believe, and that 3 variations. And the last one, excuse me. First one is the FAR, and for myself here, if that's the way you did it, the whole building, drywall to drywall, 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 I would have no problem with 0.28 on that. So my vote would be positive on that one. On the one for the three-story building, I'm really tied up. I don't. The exterior wall, because we're in Sleepy Hollow here, we have all of our commercial buildings is brick. That's what I feel we should stay with. So that's how I would feel on that one. I would have no problem granting the variance for a three-story building. Now, variances, and we've always said that, I was a building official for years, and I always said variances are not just a wish list. You know, and it's not just because I want to do it or anything. I need to have a real reason to have a variance approved. And we're having a tough one on this one here, but the three-story building, if it was designed and appropriately and the exterior part of it met here in Village of Sleepy Hollow, I could probably go with that. The last one we have on there is 7 buildings. Now, we haven't talked about how many number of buildings are on here. We're supposed to have property as 1, as it is, and so you're asking for a variance of 6. And it could be down to 5 for all we know if it comes back the next time. With taking that 1 out over there, I don't think any problem with the fire department, but I probably could go with the buildings there, and it would make sense to have 5 of them, whatever, 6 of them in that area.
Well, I guess we're at the point now, if we want to give them a chance to rework this a little bit before then you all can discuss.
I mean, there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh,
Table.
I second it.
Table.
And I'm not sure, are you suggesting there should be a vote on the variances instead and you?
Well, how would we do that? The public.
There's a motion on the floor, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a motion to go ahead and continue this till
To recess it
Recess
until
until the
March 10th.
And that's when I started thinking.
But to allow a revised plan, right? Yeah. It'd be new information we would get at that time.
Yeah, because I'd hate to see him go out and do all that and all of a sudden we say, no, we're not going to do any of that. You can't
Not going to
do.
grant the variances.
Right,
Yes,
right.
that's why I think it's a fair point to discuss.
Well, he's heard our concerns. So when he comes back, he's gonna do his best to address the concerns that we have. And then we'll have to decide at that point how we feel on that building, the facade, etc.
Yeah, and really, the only reason I was bringing this up was because I'd hate to see him go out and spend all that time and then come back in and.
Real money too.
Yeah, that's a lot of bucks, so.
But because, and meaning we shoot you down on the 3 stories and the whole thing's dead because you don't have your RSF
Yeah.
and because you're not gonna build the elevator for 2 stories, already said respectfully,
Yeah,
so.
I think
Yeah.
we have to make the decision.
I guess the
No, I-
option would be you would vote against the motion to table and take up the variances. Tonight is what you seem to be.
That's what I'm
suggesting,
looking at.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
But that's something.
So, okay, so we have a motion to continue the meeting to the 10th.
Could I ask a question before we do the vote? Is there any reason that we couldn't continue the public hearing, but in the discussion, which is not part of the public hearing, discuss the variances?
Tonight.
Well, if the public hearing is recessed, then there shouldn't be any discussion by the board. about
Okay.
it Until all the evidence is in. That would be.
I understand.
the first reaction to that.
Okay, I just wanted to verify. Thank
But-
you.
If there's this ongoing concern about the variances, you would vote no to recess the public hearing and take up the variances tonight.
So can I rescind my motion and make another one?
You can, it should be a vote on the motion.
Sure,
That's made, it's made and second's been discussed.
sure.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to go ahead and recess until the 10th of March.
Right.
We have a,
Roll call.
all in favor? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays?
Let's say, no, I think,
You say no, sir?
no,
Okay, so 1 no and the rest are aye. And motion
And
passes.
the public hearing is now recessed until till March 10 at 5:30. I'll be done for tonight. There's some more on your
Okay,
agenda,
yeah.
excuse me. I know that.
Okay, we'll then go to. Get down to old business. Any on old business, Barb?
No,
Okay. Great. Now, any public comments beyond what we've already
I
had
have
done?
one more.
Go ahead, Nick.
There's, yeah.
Sure.
Please state your name.
Sorry, Deborah Verdon, 821 Locust, Sleepy Hollow. I am not clear on the 5 foot. I thought there was something in the zoning code that said you had to measure how long the area was and calculate it by a different number. And it would be more, it would be a calculation based on how long the width was.
Calculation of what, please?
The setback.
On the buffer.
You're talking.
All right, well, we've heard your comment and then we'll consider that for the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
About
Yes,
that
yes, sir.
calculation.
Your name, please.
Pete Vernon. I just quickly, okay, it's being recessed, tabled until the 10th. Opportunity to amend all your documents. Is that going to be available for public view prior to the meeting? Because we'll be looking at
Mr. James.
theoretically a new
You're
layout.
talking about a possible change to your site plan. Will you be able to file that with the village clerk before the March 10 date?
How much before?
A week? Couple.
Minimum
Does she-
I think, yeah, I think we can.
It'll be tight, but we'll try.
Yeah, it depends on my engineer. I'm speaking for him, so I'll have to twist his arm.
All right, so we'll.
So I'll say yes.
Yeah.
We'll hope that it will be available for you to look at, and anyone else
Yeah.
here at the village hall.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Anybody else? Okay, do we get a motion to adjourn?
That's right.
Second.
Okay,
Move that along, second one.
hey, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
Return.
before you close off, who moved and who seconded?
Catalano and Hawk.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
What's your
Guys,
name?
I'll be done.
Jerry Waitchamp?
Okay.
Okay, sorry to hear.
Good night.
You get more, you get that many people together.
What is?
I think it's that way. All right, I got that. We have mailboxes. I think it should.
Yeah. You can ask everybody.
Yeah, I don't think it's, but I think it's.
Let you know. Yeah, yeah, no, I think.
Right.
I don't.
This is gonna be.
No, he's got it.
I didn't, I think, yeah, I know lots of.
I just know there are somebody's coming. So I.
That's what.
So, he's been.
Seven's been going on.
Yeah. All my heroes were Davidson, so.